Jason Price. From 2009, Jason has been building custom motorcycles. After a 6-year hiatus, he's back at it. What has he learned? We're still waiting to find out, and you are going to have to be there to find out. Welcome to the stage, Jason Price.
All right, hey everybody, I'm a little bit louder than most people. I too am a teacher in my day job, so I don't mind getting a little bit loud. Thank you again for everybody showing up. We really do appreciate you supporting Blah 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 Motorcycles, and basically what we're doing is collecting oral history. So this is kind of relating to that oral history and goes back quite a while. And the story I'm going to be telling today is called The Spirit of Norman. And what's going on with Norman? Okay, a lot of people have heard about Norman through me talking about Norman and what happened in 2018. So Norman is pictured here in the middle. Over on, I'm here, Norman, and that's Chad Francis. If anybody knows Chad Francis, he is a legend in vintage motorcycles. They call him Black Magic Francis. He's a good friend of mine. We're old deadhead buddies, both from Kentucky, both from Louisville. And we have been into vintage motorcycles for a very long time. I first met Chad in 2009, and he helped me develop my talents as a motorcycle builder. Well, Chad and I have been close together for a long time, and we, you know, if you hear about a motorcycle for sale, I may not want it, he may not want it, other people may not want it. Somebody wants these motorcycles, and so we end up spending a lot of money and time collecting old motorcycles. And I got a call from a colleague in 2018 about her uncle, Norman. Norman was a hell of a man. From Alabama, very tall. I'm 5'6". He is way over 6 foot tall, and he weighed about 400 pounds. He doesn't in this picture. Norman had terminal cancer, and this was 6 months before Norman died. And so we heard about him being this vintage motorcycle collector, and he needed to get rid of his collection, and he was very sentimental about it. If you're into old motorcycles, you know that everybody is sentimental about their bikes. And so Norman was cut from the same cloth as we were. And so we went down there to pick his barns. And when we got down there, we took $6,000 with us. And we pulled 13 motorcycles out of barns. About half of them had titles. Now, if you know anything about motorcycles, especially old ones, the first thing you want to know is, does it have a title? Okay? And if it doesn't have a title, usually we won't buy them. But a lot of these bikes that Norman had were small bikes. So because we're in that scene, we know that small bikes are easy to sell, easy to flip. And we've got that on our minds. We're talking the whole way, man, I can't wait to see what's in this collection. We've seen a couple of pictures sent to us. And I knew that there was one of my bucket list bikes, the Yamaha TW200. This is a legendary bike amongst motorcyclists. It's like spotting a unicorn, especially in 2018. Very few people were, unless you were into TWs, even knew about the TW200. But it's the only motorcycle Yamaha's been making since 1986 without changing it, other than putting a disc brake onto it. So it's the exact same motorcycle. So we got down there and we picked this entire barn. Here's the TW. And then we filled this trailer up with motorcycles. Here we have a Suzuki RB125, super rare motorcycle. Next to it is an RT2. And the RT2, when we got down and started talking to Norman, his plan was to race this motorcycle at Barber. Now, if you don't know anything about Barber, this is one of the largest vintage motorcycle facilities. It's a racing facility, a massive museum. They have a big event every year, Barber Vintage Days, I think is what it's called. Anyway, Norman wanted to race this motorcycle. Every motorcycle that he had a plan for. But life throws us a curve, and cancer was Norman's curve. So we went down there and started talking to him and hearing every story he had about every bike and how he'd gotten every bike. He had 3 RT2s. These are legendary bikes too. He said, well, one of them's got a title, and the other 2 were going to be built as race bikes. So this is what we had in the trailer so far. Here was the back of the truck. Now, if you notice, there's a bunch of little bitty bikes here. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 3 Honda Trail 70s. These are very, very sought after bikes. Now they were kind of mass produced and kind of throwaway bikes originally, and people threw them away. But now they're highly collectible. So even without a title, they're worth at least $2,500 a piece. So we hit a gold mine just with those bikes. And then within this was a BMW, what's it, a KE12, it's been a long time. But we got this bike in there too, also had a title. And then the Yamaha TW200. This, again, my bucket list bike. And this is right after I got it home. Only had 100 miles on it. And as I was telling Norman about, you know, I've always wanted one of these bikes, he said, when I bought that bike, I wanted to take it around the country. I wanted to ride it around Colorado. I wanted to ride it on the Pacific Coast. I wanted to ride it up in the UP. I wanted to ride it all over the place. But then I got sick. And I said, okay, Norman, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that TW and I'm going to take it all over the country. And he said, you know, I really wanted to race that RT2. And I said, Norman, I will make sure that that RT2 gets raced and it's going to win. Then he had this Honda XL 350. Has 23 miles on it. 23 miles. Never been ridden. He said, I painted the forks and I just stuck it in the barn. I'm like, okay. So this bike's in there. I kept that one. This is the RT as it was coming out of the shed and at RetroWrench in Louisville. We finally got a tank. We put the tank on it. We took the 3 bikes that he had, we incorporated them into one bike, and this is the way that it came out, the RT2 360. It's a single cylinder thumper, and it is a ball. So we decided that we were going to call this bike the Spirit of Norman. He died just as we were finishing this bike up. So we went in, painted the Spirit of Norman on the fender, and we decided we were going to race this bike. I'm not a big racer, but we know somebody that is. Dirt Reynolds himself, the real McCoy. If you've never met Dirt Reynolds, you have no clue what a real dirtbag biker is. This is Joe Adams, Dirt Reynolds himself, the real McCoy. He calls himself the real McCoy because he's really a McCoy. Like the Hatfields and McCoys, he still has property on the homestead that the McCoys had that they were fighting over. He's the real McCoy. Here he is. We got the bike running. It was running great. And this is him getting ready to race it. So this is at AMA Vintage Days in Lexington, Ohio, Mid-Ohio Raceway. There's a real McCoy after the race. He finished the race but got 3rd that first year. Next year, he got 1st place. He got the #1 plate, the fastest vintage racer in the country. So Dirt Reynolds is it. It is the real McCoy. And we felt it. We felt Norman there with us. It was bizarre. Bizarre because Norman was such a charismatic guy. And he was really a guy that appreciated not just owning these machines, but seeing other people ride the machines and appreciate what it actually meant to be in that community. Dave Aldine, he is a legend in the motorcycle world, both on the road racing circuit and dirt. And after Joe won 1st place, Dave came and signed the tank of the Spirit of Norman, and it's still on there. So this is like all this stuff all coming together. And it wasn't that we approached him, he approached us to sign that tank. That's what makes it so special, the Spirit of Norman. Now the TW200. All right, let's talk about this bike. I love this motorcycle. I absolutely, I'm not even going to tell you what the TW stands for in our group, but anyway. So that's the TW200. Nothing super special, but again, pulled it out of the barn with 100 miles on it, rebuilt the carburetor, threw some fresh oil, fresh gas in it, fired right up. So I was really unsure about this bike. I knew I loved the way that it looked, so I started taking it around town, just kind of putting around with it. Again, it had a title, and I started going to the bike nights in Louisville, having a great time with it. Then I started taking it on little trips. I was like, okay, I'm gaining some confidence in this motorcycle. It's not letting me down at all. So I started taking all these big loops. On every weekend I was taking it out 100-mile loops. And it's only got a 100-mile gas tank, so I had to stop for gas usually. You'll notice on here, it says Chuck Norris. So I found this sticker for my Toyota at the time. There was this big ad that the Toyotas were the Chuck Norris of motorcycles, or of cars. I said, this is the Chuck Norris of motorcycles. So I put the Chuck Norris signature on there. Later it became known as Chunk Norris. All right, that's a whole other story. Anyway, this is a friend of mine. He had a bike very similar. This is called the Suzuki Van. And we started just doing these every weekend, doing these little loops all over the place. And this is at the corner of Devil's Hollow Road and Devil's Backbone Road. And it's at a crossroads in Indiana. And so a lot of people say this is where people go to sell their soul to the devil. And if you look up here, this big circle, that's all shoes hanging from the tree. So it's called the shoe tree. Come down and ride with me, I'll take you to it. Really weird, really weird. But this is just kind of adventures we were going on. So I told Norman, I said, look, I will make sure this becomes an adventure bike. It will live out everything you ever wanted to do. And so I started taking it everywhere I went. I would put it on the back of my FJ Cruiser, and it only do 50 miles an hour, so you can't ride it across the country. I mean, that's impossible. If you are, you're a beast. But I would put it on the back of the FJ, take it on all my adventures, and have a great time with it. Here we are. This is one of the adventures. This is at the very top of where US 42 starts in the Upper Peninsula in Kennewick at Copper Harbor. So I've gone all over the country. This is one of the places Norman said he wanted to go. He wanted to go to the NASA launch site up there. And there's a missile launch site. Back in the 70s, NASA was experimenting with all these different types of missiles, and they were shooting them off in Kennewick. And so I visited that site with old Chunk Norris. Here we are off-roading across Kentucky and Virginia with the bike on the back. And what I started doing was I would go someplace, park the car, and then I would take the bike out and just go for a day and just do big loops all over the place, doing about 100 miles a day on it. And I would spend 2 or 3 days in a spot and just have a great time. Rough roads, a lot of rough roads on this bike. And it was real interesting because I never really changed the oil on it after reading the instructions. After reading the instruction manual, it said your first service after the 500-mile service, which I did, should be at 3,000 miles. And it changed the oil. I said, yeah, I can do that. So I was following the rules. Okay. So I didn't do a lot of maintenance to this bike, and it kept going and kept going. I was like, man, I need to go on bigger adventures with this bike. So I built a trailer out of a utility bed, and it carried the bike in the back. Rooftop tent, kayaks, all this stuff. That was the setup. You can see I had room for 2 bikes. And the little TW went back there everywhere I went. I started doing a lot more further away adventures. This was up in, I was in Maine, I believe, here. So I had the bike in tow on a trailer, the Saloon truck I had, and I was all over New York, Vermont, Pennsylvania with this. I'd stop someplace, do my loops, get back on, go, drive for another 5-6 hours, stop there, do some loops. Here it is on the back of this trailer. Again, same kind of thing. Finally made it out, started to go out west. So Norman said that he wanted to take this coast to coast. And so I decided I was going to do a trip right after a good friend of mine, Brian Cahill, died. I was going to go out to Oregon. Now, I was already going out there to do a off-roading event called Overland Expo, and I do cooking demos. So I kind of like to cook when I'm, on the trail. And so I decided I was going to hit the Badlands. Well, I stopped at the Badlands, do my 100-mile loop, and this is what I was seeing out there. This is just amazing scenery, and I began to understand what Norman was saying. Just get out there and adventure, and this was the bike to do it with. All right, made it out to Lake Bonneville, another one. So this is all, I would stop a place, do my loop, and then get back and keep rolling. So I stopped on this trip out in, this was in 2024. This was a trip, Andrew Rates, the captain. If you've ever gone to AMA Vintage Days and seen the Burnout Pit, the captain runs the show. I'm merely the colonel, and I'm kind of one of the minions helping put it all together. But I stopped there to see him, and I started hitting all these huge passes out there. So this was Weston Pass at almost 12,000 feet, dividing the San Isabel and the Pike National Forests. Hit another pass while I was out in Colorado. This is Morelos Pass, dividing the Pacific Ocean with the White River, so it was the Continental Divide. Then we make it to Breckenridge, and we ride all over the Breckenridge trails. And this, by the time we got up to about 12,000 feet, I was dying, the TW was dying. A carbureted bike that was set up at 700 feet does not do well at 12 to 13,000 feet. So we came back down. But the views out there were amazing. Every time I would stop and take a picture, I could just feel Norman smiling over my shoulder. Finally made it out to the Pacific Ocean. This is in Oregon, right before the event that I was going to do in Redmond, Oregon. made it out there, and I was full of emotion because not only of Norman, my friend Brian had just died, and then when I was out there, I met up with another friend of mine, Scott Hoblieb, and got to spend the entire day with Scott, who just recently died. So all these things, Norman is really kind of bringing all of this together and making me really appreciate every day, every moment that I'm with my friends and on bikes. So this same trip, I head back across the country. I actually stop here in Chicago, and then I head back and I go out to Gloucester to meet up with my brother who lives in Beverly. And again, this is just an amazing trip that I'm on, but we had gone out there with my dad to bury my mother's ashes at sea. And she wanted to be placed outside of Gloucester because she loved that whole area where my brother lived. So this was Gloucester. And then here we are in the Atlantic Ocean. This is all within 12 days. I'd gone from one side of the country to the other in 12 days. It was crazy. This is my friend Amanda. I ended up on this same trip back in Vermont, and we meet up with Amanda in season. And Amanda meets me in season up there, and we do a big, huge route all through Lake Champlain area. End up taking a ferry across Lake Champlain and having a ball. So this bike's going everywhere, adventuring, just like Norman wanted it to be. So we decided that we're going to keep doing it. Norman's having a great time, I'm having a great time. I decided I'm going to build another trailer. I love building things. So I built another trailer. This is the trailer that I built for the season, and I'm going to take a trip up to Vermont, and then we're headed up to Maine. So we're going to take it all the way up, maybe get up into Canada, we don't know. We're just, freewheeling it. All right, so that trip didn't quite finish the way we wanted because when I got up to Vermont, I over-revved the bike, warming it up, and blew the motor up. So now the little TW is in my garage, waiting to be rebuilt. But I end on this picture because this is what it's really about. It's about the bikes bringing people together. And this is at the corner at AMA Vintage Days where we have our big event within the event, the Kentucky Corner. And this is it. This is what it's about. Watching people ride their dreams all the way around this circle with your friends. And that's the spirit of Norman.
So the T-Dub is an adventure bike for short. Taken Jason on many adventures, including straight to our garage. So we are looking forward to having it running again. So Jason will have one running motorcycle at the house, which will be wonderful. All right, Jason, thanks again for coming on up and telling the story of Norman. What he didn't mention on that last picture, we saw all of us kind of standing around, is that we were waiting for the other bike, the Suzuki, right?
Oh, the Yamaha.
The Yamaha. We're waiting for the Yamaha to come back around because our friend Dirt Reynolds is riding it on the trail that you see us looking at, but you can't see in the picture. So we're watching another Norman bike go by.